Umar Johnson, everybody. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. How's everyone doing? Dr. Umar Ifatunde. I'm a certified school psychologist. My doctorate is clinical psychology. I'm also a political scientist. When I look at this issue of gun violence in our city of Philadelphia, I look at it from a psychological perspective, but also look at it from a political perspective. We have to look at systemic factors that contribute to this, and we also have to look at family-based and community factors that contribute to the gun violence. First of all, we have to change the narrative that is currently being perpetuated by Philadelphia's media that suggests black youth are born to kill, born to become criminals, and born to break the law. That is not true. Criminals are not born, criminals are made, and we need to understand that. And criminals are made by criminal societies and criminal governments. And the mother of all violence, we do not stop gun violence in Philadelphia until we deal with the miseducation system of Philadelphia. Not just the school to prison pipeline, but the special education to prison pipeline. Too many of our young men are being put in special ed in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, not because they have a learning disability, but because nobody wants to teach them or be bothered with them. As the school psychologist, I'm one of the ones who do the evaluations. And I need you parents in here to stop signing permission for your children to be evaluated for special education when they are so young. 5 years old is too young for an evaluation. 6 years old is too young for an evaluation. There's no way somebody can tell you for certain that your son has a reading disability in kindergarten. It is an opinion, it is an idea, and most of the time, it ain't nothing but a scam. And I say that because when we put children in special ed, the school gets extra money for that child. So special education is a business. Special education is a hustle. Special education is a racket of making money off of black boys who you know you never taught in the first place. Which is why I'm a firm advocate of making sure we understand that a lot of our young men and increasingly girls don't have learning disabilities. They have what I call lazy disabilities. And I have to put this at the feet of our parents because too often our young people are not reading enough. They're not doing homework enough. They're not practicing enough. When I come into your homes, there's no bookshelf. When I come into your homes, there's no dictionary. When I come into your homes, there's no thesaurus. There's no set of encyclopedia. If our boys can't read by the time they finish the 5th grade, there's a significant likelihood they're going to spend some time in prison. I've spoken in every prison in Philadelphia. And whenever I go into a prison, I always ask the inmates, raise your hand if you were a special ed student. Nearly every hand goes up. So if we want to do something about mass incarceration, we have to do something about these superficial, counterfeit labels that we keep on letting the school district of Philadelphia slap on our children with our permission. And I'm going to say this. There can't be a lazy child without a lazy parent. Come on. And I have to say this. So often I've evaluated children only to need a conversation with their parent to let them know that every problem your child has began in your home and can only be solved in your home. Putting your child in special ed for reading and math problems when you know the real problem is laziness, that's going to be on you. So you're going to put that time in with your child. You're going to do it now or you're going to do it later when they are in jail. So we have to change the way we look at special ed. And related to special education is another demon, which is ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is another scam, $30 million Wall Street drug company hustle of making money off black boys whose fathers are not in the homes and who lack discipline. And as a result of that lack of discipline, they remix it into a psychiatric illness when it is not. And I need you to stop getting your children evaluated for ADHD, conduct disorder, and ODD because the only solution they have for children with those disorders are Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Metadate, Cycler. In other words, crack, 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 and crack. Stop giving your children crack. Teach them self-control. And that's why I call ADHD ain't no daddy at home disorder, because that's what it really is. Come on now. And if the daddy's at home, it's ain't no discipline at home disorder. And if there's discipline at home, it's an artificial diet at home disorder. How are we going to pump our children full of sugar, high fructose corn syrup, caffeine, and then send them to a school where there's no gym class? Send them to a school where there's no recess. Send them to a school where they hardly ever go on a class trip. There's nothing wrong with our boys. The problem is they need men in those classrooms. In Philadelphia, 25% of the teachers are black, but only 4% are males. Why we don't have more black males in these schools? I'll tell you why. School district don't want them. That's why. We have to be honest about something, and that's racism. And racism is alive and well in the school district of Philadelphia and the city of Philadelphia. They don't want black men in the classroom because black men are not going to stand by and let them mistreat our sons and daughters. You have Temple University. They got black teachers coming out of there every day. You got Cheney and Lincoln. They got black teachers coming out of there every day. You got Drexel. You got LaSalle. Down the road, you got Dell State. You got University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, Coppin, Howard. There's black male teachers all around Philadelphia. So why we don't have more? Because they don't want them. But we as a community have to put pressure on the school district and on the city to give us more black male teachers. And one of the culprits as to why we don't have more black male teachers is they have these emergency, they have these emergency teacher certification programs where they bring unemployed white folks. I'm going to say it because it's the truth. If you got an issue with race, you don't want to talk to me because you don't solve no problems black people got without dealing with racism. So what they do is they bring unqualified white people into our children's classrooms and they make them long-term substitutes. They don't have degrees. They don't have teaching experience. They never passed the test that prove that they can teach, but they're there because they're white and they got bills to pay in the suburbs, and our children got to suffer because white people need the money. Come on. I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. I work in the schools.
Me too.
And you got to be careful with the charter schools too, because some of them ain't no better than the public schools you pulled your child out of. Now, I just read that Philadelphia County spends about $220 million a year to lock up our people. I also read that it costs nearly $50,000 a year to house an inmate in Philadelphia County. Do you know what I can do with $50,000 a year? With $50,000 a year, I can take that money and give our sons and daughters a trade school education where they can receive the full coursework necessary to sit for the state license to be a plumber, to be a carpenter, to be a welder, to be an auto mechanic. The skills that pay the bills were taken out of Philadelphia schools back in the 1980s, and we have not fought to put them back. The reason we got so many young people going into the juvenile detention centers and going into the prisons is because the skills that pay the bills were stripped. And now the only place you can get those skills that pay the bills, you gotta go to Dobbs, or you gotta go to Randolph, or you gotta go to Swenson. But why don't every comprehensive high school have a set of skills that our young men and women can learn so they can live a decent, livable wage job life? Come on, man. Up until 1970, brothers and sisters, most of our houses had men and women in them.
You got it.
Slavery did not destroy the black family. What destroyed the black family was in the 70s and 80s, in the post-Black Power, Dr. King era. They decided to come into the inner cities, Philadelphia included, and take out all the factory jobs. And then they went into the high schools and took out all the industrial skill training programs. And then they told everybody, you gotta go to college. Well, guess what? Everybody don't have to go to college, nor should everybody have to go to college. And what we're seeing is record numbers of young black people going into long-term student loan debt with these banks. And when they graduate after college, they can't even find a job to pay off the student loan debt. But guess what? You can become a plumber in 2 years. Come on. You can become a carpenter in 2 years. You become an electrician in 2 years.
Yes, sir.
We working on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy down in Right. It costs us $150,000